Ho, ho, ho! What's going on? Welcome to Victims and Villains. If you guys are new to this channel, we are mental health through pop culture, and today we're talking about Violent Night. Now, my name is Captain Nostalgia. I'm a writer, podcaster, and director of our film festival, Horrific Hope. First festival is kind to be horror-centric and mental health focused. If you guys would like to check out more information about it, when it's going to be, how to submit your films or screenplays or become a sponsor, links are going to be in the show notes below. Down there, you can also find links to our podcasts, movie reviews like this one, and most importantly, our mental health resource library. Now, this year, it seems like we have a couple noteworthy Christmas films to be talking about. The first of which is Silent Night. We'll be talking about the Mean One later in the month. But for tonight, we're going to talk about David Harbour's outing as, you guessed it, Santa Claus. So Violent Night tells the story of David Harbour's Santa Claus that accidentally stumbles into a house robbery led by John Leguizamo and swoops in to save the day. Before I even start talking about the nitty-gritty of this movie and whether or not it's good or bad or how the pacing or the acting is, let's just get this out there. This is a really, really fun movie. And I'll even dare to say that this might be the greatest seasonal action film that we've gotten since Die Hard. And I feel like I said that a couple years ago when we did our Fat Man episode, but this might take the cake and be a little bit better and a little bit more fun than Fat Man. First off, David Harbour in this movie is incredible. He's such a good Santa Claus, and I think what makes him good is that it's a break from the jolly old St. Nicholas that we're typically used to. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the mental health section of this video, but I just really liked how Santa actually felt like really well-rounded. He felt like worn and just kind of like, it's interesting because I feel like you either get the bad Santa, like extreme version of Santa, or you get the really holly jolly version we typically see with like Tim Allen and other actors that have taken up the mantle. But what I really like about this movie is that Harbour feels actually like a fully developed character and legend before we really even kind of get to know him. The film opens up on him kind of explaining his weariness about the holidays. I think that was a really smart move, and it only develops and you kind of get to know Santa from there. I'm a really big John Leguizamo fan, so coming into this movie, I didn't know anything about it. All I'd seen was like the gnarly pictures of David Harbour with like the blood in his beard. I didn't know he was in there, and it was quite a surprise. I really wish that we got to see more of Leguizamo. Like, it was really nice getting to see him in the menu a couple weeks ago, and getting to see him just kind of embrace like full baddie in this one is just absolutely wonderful. Leguizamo plays a character by the name of Mr. Scrooge, and yeah, I'll explain why in just a few minutes, but he's truly fantastic in this role. This role is just really kind of like typical bad guy, but also just really like bordering the over the top without necessarily going over the top, and Leguizamo walks that really well, and he's actually kind of menacing in this movie. So Leguizamo's character hates Christmas, and his name is Mr. Scrooge, and so all of his henchmen, for lack of a better word, go by Christmas code names. You have code names in this movie like Sugar Plum, Gingerbread, Krampus, everything that reminds you of Christmas. And one thing that I think this film does really well is it kind of flips the Christmas movie norms on their side and becomes almost kind of like a satire of them. At the center of this movie, you have an antagonist played by Leguizamo that is so bitter on Christmas that he's literally satirized every thing about his mission being about Christmas, and the final battle between him and Harbour is just one for the books, and probably one of the best fight sequences that has been seen in 2022. The pacing of this movie is kind of just as you would expect, a Christmas movie. It still has a lot of the hallmarks of a Christmas movie. I compared this movie a little bit earlier to Fat Man, and Fat Man, I think what that had over this movie is that inherently didn't feel like a Christmas movie. It just happened to have Christmas characters in it, and it felt like a really well thought out action movie. Whereas for a movie like this, it's really interesting to talk about because I feel like the fight sequences are really strong. The Christmas feel of this movie is almost running parallel to that action movie motif that it has set. And that's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying that because it is embracing those Christmas mannerisms, this movie is really predictable, especially kind of like the last act of this movie, where yes, you do have that awesome fight sequence, but a lot of the things that you would imagine from a Christmas movie happen and take place, and so you're like calling them 10 minutes before it happens, and that to me is a little bit frustrating. I don't know if it's just because I've seen a lot of Christmas movies or because we've covered a lot of Christmas movies, but it's the last act of this movie is really predictable. Harbour's really proven himself in the last few years as a leading man with things like Stranger Things and Hellboy. And not only does he have that leading man charm, but he also has that leading man comedic timing. And with Violent Night, it's really no different. I talked earlier about the opening of this film and kind of how it sets the stage for his character journey throughout the course of this. And at the tail end of that cold open, before we kind of meet the family that we spend the majority of the film with alongside Santa Claus, he throws up on a woman after getting drunk, and it is just really funny, and it's one of the very many examples that you'll see of Harbour's comedic timing in this movie. Now, Harbour is not hogging all of the glory when it comes to the comedic moments. Another really funny character, kind of really underdeveloped, would be Cam Gigandet. I don't know if I said that name right. I feel like it's been a while since I've seen him on the big screen. The last time I saw him in a movie feels like Easy A, but he's probably been making movies. Confirmed. I just looked at IMDb and he's done 30 movies / projects since Easy A. So he just hasn't done anything that I've come across. But I've always really liked him as an actor, and I always think that he does a really good job at playing comic relief really well. And this film, he is just a really well-placed comic relief. And for all my horror nerds out there, let's talk about the gags in this movie. If you're not a horror nerd and you want to know what the term gag means, it basically refers to the killings of the movie. Coming into the gags, I think what is really smart about this movie is, I've already talked about how the film is basically a Christmas movie satire with how it uses all of the henchmen having names that are related to Christmas or things that we associate with Christmas, and Leguizamo's character being called Mr. Scrooge. And some of the gags in this movie also coincide with Christmas items. It's really smart. For all my 90s kids out there, this movie has a couple of gags that call back to Home Alone. Someone gets strangled with tinsel. And of course, at the epicenter of this movie is Santa just taking no prisoners. On our Rorschach rating scale, I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 4 out of 5. This movie has all the hallmarks of a great Christmas classic to come. Not only does it feel like Die Hard, it has a lot of bloodlust that will satisfy all the gore hounds like myself. It's funny, it's heartwarming, and it's just an all-around fun time. Alright, so if you guys have seen Violent Night, comment below. Let me know what you guys thought. if you haven't and you guys are checking out some spoiler-free thoughts like my own, make sure that you guys comment below and let me know your favorite Christmas action movie that is not Die Hard. Let's make this hard. And also, before we jump into mental health, make sure that you guys check out our episode on this movie later this month, where we're going to be teaming up for our annual Christmas crossover with our friends over at Collateral Cinema. Make sure that you guys check it out. All right, well, let's talk about mental health. If you guys are new to our content, Mental Health Moment is where we take a theme of mental health and we talk about it in just a few moments in the hopes to deconstruct the stigma surrounding mental health. There's a point in the movie as David Harbour is kind of expressing this weariness of not really wanting to be Santa Claus anymore, not really feeling the gratification or the satisfaction that he once found in the job. There comes a point in the film where he's talking to one of our protagonists in Trudy, who is a little girl who's related to the family, who's at the center of this story, but he's kind of telling her about all of the shady past that he's had, and she kind of talks about using the bad things that he once did as a good things for the future. And that really honestly hit me really profoundly, because Victims and Villains wouldn't exist today if it wasn't for past depression episodes that I've had. It wouldn't exist, most likely, had I not lost a friend to suicide, if I didn't struggle with anxiety or addiction the way that I have in the past. And still continue to this day. Because you see, sometimes the experiences that we have in the seasons that we are going into now, or experiencing in the now, have the power and the ability to affect positively for the future and the choices that we make. And sometimes the pain that we go through is not necessarily for us to benefit, but for someone else to benefit, so that they can avoid the mistakes that we have in our own past. And sometimes those scars connect us. I think about everyone that I've talked to and met over the years that has struggled with pornography the way that I have, or that has lost someone to suicide the way that I have. It's like you could spend your entire life not knowing a person and then hear their story one time, and instantly you feel like you've spent your entire life walking alongside of them because they just know your struggle. I'm not trying to glorify the art of struggling or anything like that. I'm just letting you know that A, you are not alone. B, that you matter, because that's also something that Santa has to learn in this, that he goes through this journey only to find out that he does matter. And C, I'm also just letting you know that there are people that have gone through what you've gone through, and sometimes the pain of the past is meant to positively impact whether it's someone else's future or our own future. Renee Yohe once wrote that pain has a purpose. And if you guys don't know who that is, she is the woman that has inspired the movement of To Write Love in Her Arms. And I think there's just something really beautiful in that. And I got a chance to interview her one time. And if you've ever seen her or met her, she has her forearms are just covered in self-mutilation scars. She has roses tattooed over top of them, and it's supposed to signify that beauty can come from ashes, and that out of pain and suffering can come hope. And I really hope that this is an encouragement to anyone that's watching this right now that's going, hold on, because pain ends. And as always, if you or someone you know is struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, please click the links in the descriptions below. This is a reminder that you're not alone and that you don't have to struggle alone. So please reach out if you are going through that. Violent Night is now playing in theaters everywhere from Universal Pictures. And make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button, and we will be back throughout the course of this month talking about all the Christmas goodness and horror cheesiness. So yeah, if you guys haven't, check out our episode on Fat Man and be on the lookout for our full-length episode on Violent Night. Have a good night, guys.